Hi, and welcome back to Always Something. It is my infusion day. I'm a little more than halfway through my infusion already. We had a little problems getting me hooked up to the IV this morning. We finally got me going, and there is a major problem. If you can see where my IV is hooked in, if I don't keep my arm completely straight, the machine is beeping at me consistently, and that is because this line that goes to my medicine, it'll kink, and then the medicine won't get administered properly. So the machine gets mad. The difference between the infusion medicine that I got when I first got sick and the infusion medicine that I take now is the infusion medicine that I took when I first got sick was a form of chemotherapy. This infusion medicine that I take right now is used in conjunction with chemotherapy. It is a little bit easier to tolerate, but there are still side effects. When I first started taking this medicine, I had some bad reactions to the medicine, so they had to figure out what I needed in order for my body to accept it better. So they gave me a combination of pre-medications, and I take these before I take the infusion. And once my body has absorbed the pre-meds, then it's safe to get this medicine going. My pre-meds consist of some Benadryl, some Tylenol, and then they give me an injection of some steroids, some prednisone. So I'm really glad I don't have to take prednisone on a regular basis, but I do have to take it in order for the infusion to go nicely in my body. So what happened when I had a bad reaction to the infusion, I had a cough and some trouble breathing, some itchiness in the back of my throat. So what they do is they just stop the machine, and then they give you a saline flush through the IV, and then it kind of clears out the medicine in the line. And then after that, they'll just slowly start you back up again, and hopefully you tolerate it a little bit better after that. In fact, that's when they knew to give me the steroid in between, and that's how they learned that I needed the steroid at the beginning of the infusion in order to help me not have a bad reaction. So everybody's body handles it a little bit differently. Oops, kinked the line. That's the beeping I'm talking about. Didn't have my arm straight. Everybody's body's a little bit different, and so you have to just figure out what works for you, and hopefully no bad reactions. I haven't had any bad reactions since they figured out my proper dose of pre-meds. A quick update about my surgery. I had my surgery on December 15th and it is now January 23rd. My last stitches came out last night. I'm super happy about that. So I should be at the very end of the road to recovery. I did have a big bruise that I'm waiting to heal up all the way. And once that's done, I should be over the last hurdle. So yay, almost fully recovered. I just wanted to check back in after my infusion. This was my second infusion that I had here with that medication here in Texas. I've done about 15 infusions with that medication. I'm not sure how many infusions I did with my first medication for that 6 months when I had my first flare. But yeah, I've done a lot of them so far. And I can tell you that not every infusion is created equal. They're all a little bit different. So even between the first 2 infusions that I've had here in Texas, they were not exactly the same. You think you know what to expect, and then you're kind of a little bit surprised. Not to say that you don't have a little of an idea, but I've had all kinds of different infusion situations. I've gone to infusion centers where you're in like a group setting. They have a curtain they can slide in between you for privacy, or you can socialize with the person next to you if that's your preference. They have a TV that is kind of for everybody, and so it depends on kind of who wants to use the remote on that one, or you are better off bringing your own kind of entertainment if you want to use their provided reading materials. Sometimes they'll have magazines, or you can bring your own book or something to occupy you if you have a handheld video game device, if you want to bring headphones and listen to music. There's a lot of times a lot of people will just take a nap. It's harder for me to take a nap because my pre-meds, they give me the prednisone steroid and that keeps me awake. And so often I'm up, and I don't like to sit for the whole period of the time during my infusion because my body aches. It's just too uncomfortable for me to sit there the whole time. I did bring my extra back pillow for support, and that kind of helps a little bit with the soreness, but it is nice that you don't have to be plugged in the whole time. It does have a wall plug, a lot of those IV machines, but you can just unplug them and they go on battery power, and then that's how you can move it around and to help you do things like go to the bathroom, or just if you want to get up and stretch. And so it is really nice that you're not just confined to the chair the whole time, or in some instances, like how there was the couch in the room, you can switch and get out of the chair and go lay on the couch if that's something that you find more comfortable. Now, one thing that is something that was just only new to this infusion center is that the nurse came in and she programmed all my speeds into the IV machine. This is something that in other infusion centers they haven't really been able to do. They had to come in and manually input the speeds every time I had a speed change. So anytime my speed would change, because I personally start off with slower speeds as far as how fast that they administer the medicine into me, and then as my treatment goes on, the medicine goes into me quicker towards the end. So my infusion time, it takes 6 hours to fully go from start to finish, which is a long day. And so every single time the speed would change, the machine would beep, and that would make it really just not a very good environment to try and take a nap, and hard to really get into anything because they're constantly having the machine beep and having to run in the room and then adjust the speed. And also during these times they would check my vitals, and so it was just a lot of in and out, beep, beep, beep. And so in this infusion center, during my first infusion, it was really nice because with the machine that would automatically know when my speed would change, there wasn't all these beeps in between, and so there was a long period of time where I could just relax and not really have to think about all that. Well, the second infusion, You heard me mention it earlier. There was a lot of beeping because when they tried to put in the medicine in at the bottom of my wrist, I showed you where it was really bruised. My vein was not cooperating. So then they had to try and use the vein in my kind of the crease of my arm. And when they used the vein in the crease of my arm, I tell you, that's not a good place for an IV. It is a good place for me when I give blood because it's a really good vein for that. But anywhere where you're gonna bend your arm or your wrist, it turns out, especially if you're there for 6 hours, it's too hard to keep that straight all the time. And especially if you're gonna be doing if you're sleeping, I guess maybe it's easier, but if you're doing anything at all, yeah, that's no good. And so basically, if I didn't keep my arm straight, it was beeping, and then it's beeping because the line's not straight, and then you're not able to receive that medicine. And so anytime the machine would beep, half the time, well, not anytime, but half the time when the machine would beep, the nurse would run in and, what's going on? Are you having problems? And, I could straighten the line and get it to stop a lot of the times, but she just wanted to make sure everything was okay. Both medications that I've been on, the first one that I did for the 6 months right after I flared was considered chemotherapy, and then the one I'm currently on that's used in conjunction with chemotherapy are considered immunosuppressive medications. So you can take immunosuppressive medication orally, which I did until I had my infusions, but the oral medicine just wasn't as effective because I did end up having a flare. Some people with autoimmune disease and vasculitis can get off immunosuppressive medication, but for me, when I tried to do that, I ended up having a second flare of my autoimmune disease, and my autoimmune disease, it started attacking my kidneys all over again. So that is why that they decided to put me back on to this medication that I'm on now, and that is why we are doing these treatments for me. So this immunosuppressive medication, basically what it does is it weakens my white blood cells and makes me more vulnerable to infections, and so my immunity goes way down right after my treatments. And then as it gets closer to my next treatment, my immunity starts to regenerate and go back up. So I'm most vulnerable to catch something and get an infection right after treatment. Anyway, this is what an infusion looks like for me. If there's something I didn't cover or something you want to know more about, just leave them down in the comments below. If you like seeing videos like this, remember to like and subscribe to my channel. And thank you so much for watching. We'll catch you next time.